Hello everybody and welcome to today's session. My name is Jill Davis and I'm the Joint Managing Director at SLC Representation based in London, and I'm delighted that you've been able to join us this afternoon for us and this morning for many of you over in the US. Today we're going to be looking at using data insights and trends to shape your UK marketing strategy, and I'm joined today by a really esteemed panel. We're going to be hearing from Anna from Travelport, Diego from Data Appeal, and then David, the COO of specialist operator US Air Tours. So the session is going to run with an introduction from myself about the situation in the UK market at the moment. We'll then be hearing from Anna regarding the search and booking trends that she's experiencing from Travelport's perspective. Diego is going to take us through his platform and some of the intelligence that they can look at from consumer sentiment. And then we're going to have a panel Q&A with David looking at his insights as a tour operator perspective. I hope that by the end of the session, there'll be some really useful data insights that will help you to shape your own strategy as you look to rebuild from the UK market, both for this summer, as Brits immediately, hopefully, are able to travel again from June, we're hoping, but also as the year ahead and looking forward to a great future for business travel between business and leisure travel between the UK and the US. So I'm going to start, first of all, by taking you through a few slides myself. And I'm going to be looking at the UK market today, the key trends and some of the reaction that we've seen to those trends, and then my top tips for what you should be activating across the UK market. And of course, looking at a benchmark year, we have to go back to 2019, the previous year, with 2020 just not really giving us any data that is of use to benchmark against. Looking back to 2019, Brits made 93.1 million trips abroad. They spent 62 billion. 2/3 of those trips were for holidays, and we had 4.8 million visits to the USA and about 757,000 travelling into Canada. Brits are also one of the top spending markets as well, and one of the largest generating regions globally for tourism. USA is number 4 destination in terms of where we go, and the first long-haul destination that you see on the list. Now, of course, COVID-19 has had a huge impact on air passenger travel, and here you see the data for both domestic and international travel. What's interesting to see here is, though, that between July and November last year, when travel corridors started to open up, there was an immediate spike, and the pent-up demand was very evident then, just as it is today. People were booking to the destinations that opened, which were a handful of destinations across Europe, the Maldives, the UAE, and a handful of Caribbean islands. And people were absolutely desperate to get on their holidays and get overseas. Now, we have been in a very strict lockdown that pretty much started on Boxing Day and has run pretty much until about a week and a half ago. Very strict lockdown in the initial stages. Schools reopened in March. Domestic stays were permitted from April. And of course, we were all delighted that international travel, with some restrictions, was allowed to happen from the 17th of May. That's been largely down to our vaccination success, and we're looking at about 40 million people who've had their first dose now. Close to 70% of the population have had their first dose, and that puts us about 5th globally in terms of our vaccination rollout. And that's going to be really one of the key things that will be taking us forward as we move into a post-COVID environment. But some other things to share. The consumer finances across the UK have not been as impacted as it was first feared. And in fact, the Bank of England went as far as to saying that Brits have amassed accidental savings of up to £250 billion, predicting a COVID-19 a spending boom as we come out of COVID-19. And we're already starting to see that with operators reporting that their booking values are significantly up. In terms of the traffic light system and what it means, this was launched from the 17th of May with countries going into 3 codings, green, amber, red. Green being the countries that we're allowed to travel to, and of which at the moment there are 12 countries on the list. Now, of course, that's half the picture. That's countries we can travel to, but they have their own restrictions about whether they'll let us in. And at the moment, there's about 4 destinations that we are able to travel to, the big winner being Portugal, which has seen a huge uplift in traffic from that announcement. At the moment, we're looking at USA and Canada being on the amber list, and we're optimistic that that will change soon. The government are looking for 3 key things to determine what category the country is going to go on to, and that's reliable data showing low or declining infection rates, a competent vaccination programme and a significant proportion of the public being jabbed, and also a minimal prevalence of variants of concern. And those are the things that the governments are going to be reviewing to decide which countries go on to green. Now, even though US and Canada were on amber, immediately we saw, as the reports started coming out of the traffic light system being launched from May, a spike of interest in US and Canada trips, with inquiries going significantly up over that period. And in fact, bookings are also up as well. And I know some of my other panelists will talk to this today as well. But the data here that we have from Travel Tech shows that bookings are up 67% compared to the same week in 2020, but also very interestingly up 4.5% when you compare right back to that benchmark year of 2019. And that's the first time we've seen booking levels be on a par with 2019. So really very encouraging, booking values up. Travel dates are substantially for 2022 and beyond, and I know that Anna's got some very interesting insights to share on quite how long the lead times are at the moment out of the UK. But also interesting to see there that USA was up 27%, even when it's in its amber status. And I briefly mentioned Portugal. These are the kind of increases that happened as soon as Portugal went green. 616% week-on-week increases on Skyscanner, up 600% in 24 hours on Jet2 holidays, and more bookings within an hour of that announcement than in the whole month of April with Thomas Cook. So in terms of just some of the trends that we are seeing and how operators and the industry are reacting, the travel trade is gaining in importance. It's now quite complicated to work through the restrictions that you have to go through, the requirement for PCR testing, both in destination, but then also back in the UK when you come home. And we're certainly finding that people are turning more and more to the high street for that confidence in booking. We've got operators across the industry working to build trust, and never before in this have I seen such an environment where operators are really talking about how money is protected if you book with them, or it's safe and trusted to book with us. They've used this period to really build trust with their loyal databases. We're seeing hugely mixed lead times. This example is actually Sri Lanka, but this update when Sri Lanka went on a travel corridor came out within 38 minutes of the announcement being made. So it's really important to be sure that in the anticipation of USA reopening to Brits, that you're planning it in advance, because when the green light is hit, operators will be marketing US very, very quickly. And we already know from the discussions we've had that preparation work is happening now. Operators are having to be flexible, and an example here of many that I could have cited was Kuoni's flexibility and cancellation and refund policy, which actually says you can cancel with a full refund for any reason up to 10 days before your trip. And we've certainly never seen flexibility like this in 20 years that I've been working in travel. But operators are having to look to both airlines, hoteliers, ground partners to support that flexibility, and are needing that flexibility to make cut through here. We're seeing operators work really hard to try and improve what's now quite a complicated customer journey. TUI, for instance, are offering PCR tests for travel from £20, and that's down from about £120 if we look back just 2 or 3 months ago. So brands are looking at ways that they can make this customer journey easier and actually get people travelling again. Many destinations are sort of talking about the open spaces they have. I think we've been longing for the great outdoors, to be able to be back in nature, to be able to reconnect with outside spaces, and we think that there will be a real uptick in people wanting those kind of open destinations, and certainly the Maldives as an example have jumped on that as the ultimate socially distanced destination. And of course, safety, which in its initial stages was people talking about their COVID procedures, but we're starting to see destination brands do some quite clever things with this. And there's a great advert. I would urge you to spend 90 seconds of your life watching this advert, a really tongue-in-cheek advert for Switzerland with Robert De Niro and Roger Federer. And Robert De Niro is not interested in going to Switzerland because there's not enough drama for him. It's a bit too safe. And it's just a really fun way that Switzerland are playing on that aspect of safety in their destination. And of course, innovation. We've seen brands particularly using technology, and I always feel Qatar Airways are one of the leading travel brands in terms of their technology. They've been coming out with zero contact in-flight entertainment systems and looking at ways that they can embrace technology without taking away those sort of meaningful interactions with their customers. So just in summary, for some of the recommendations I would have, certainly be really visible. People in the UK are thinking about travel, they're booking travel, they're optimistic about travel. So now is the time to be really visible here. Use this time to build partnerships with the travel trade as they're growing in importance. Encourage your local operators to provide rates as far in advance and with maximum flexibility. Maximise the opportunity for the online events and training. I know Brand USA just last month did a big online activation, but it's actually a very cost-effective way of getting in front of people whilst we have all been behind our screens more than normal. Make life easy for customers. What contribution can your brand make to making that customer journey as straightforward as possible? Think about your messaging and whether that's going to meet what customers are looking for. This is customers who've been in a lockdown and are desperate to get away and escape. And how are you going to respond to that? Be ready. We hope and anticipate USA will be open by June and that Canada will follow, hopefully not too long behind. So plan your marketing now so that you can hit go overnight. And of course, use data to inform your decisions. So that's it from me. I'm going to now invite Anna to take you through some of her statistics from Travelport.
Thank you, Jill. Let me turn on. So can you see the screen?
Yeah, perfect, Anna.
Perfect, thank you. So thank you, Jill, and it's such a pleasure to have this opportunity to share some of our insights and case studies. This is actually just some of the snapshots, and if you are interested in any details, please feel free to let Jill's team know, and we can provide more information. In this session, I will share what the market says, how Travelport supports the industry during pandemic in 3 perspectives. Last but not least, I will also share how Travelport works with tourism board to drive destination awareness, stimulate interest, and also conversions. So what the market says. In 2020 April, McKinsey's report was showing different recovery scenarios. This one was the most likely scenario, assuming virus contained, and the time to return to pre-pandemic for USA would be 2020 Q4. Apparently, it's not valid anymore. The worst scenario was assuming the muted world recovery. Virus was not properly controlled, and vaccination was not timely implemented, and also political complications. So for USA, it's expected 2024 Q2 to return to pre-crisis time. And of course, this will be the worst scenario. All of us will wish to see better control of COVID, faster vaccination, better collaboration between government, and thus faster recovery. Surprisingly, in July 2020, most of the interviewees agreed the recovery will be long and with multiple ups and downs, and even now it's still the same. So how Travelport is supporting the industry? There are 3 areas Travelport was supporting, from data insights, technology, and also resources like research and also marketing campaigns. So globally, there are 235,000 travel agents using our system to book air tickets, hotels, car rentals, or experiences with billions of bookings. In view of this presidential crisis, so Travelport has immediately worked with third-party partner to enhance our system to make the travel agencies' life much easier. So within the booking system is just one button to access COVID-19 information, including quarantine measures in each destination, border restrictions, flight restrictions, cancellation policies, and etc., so that the travel agents don't have to go to different websites, and sometimes each websites have very inconsistent policies. It's very confusing. So for airlines, we also have all those their health and safety measurement, and even with the COVID-19 rating system. So for hotels, we do have their cancellation policies, cleanliness and safety measures, as well as their amenities special for the pandemic period, like some of them using the stickers to prove their rooms has been cleaned. So that's why for hotels, it's very important to update all those information on the systems. We also support with some other resources, especially at the early stage. Nobody knows what's going on and what to do. So Travelport actually has launched COVID-19 Hub in early March 2020. It includes the information from airlines, hotel and car policies, safety measures, COVID news and insights, as well as e-learning tools. For example, some agency in the past, they only sell air tickets, but because of all those travel restrictions, there's not much air bookings. Thus, they can learn self-learning tools. They can learn how to sell hotels and even how to sell domestic markets so that the travel agent can earn some commissions. Travelport also have conducted some research to identify the key insights to develop the recovery guidebook for the industry. So we have in-depth interviews with travel agencies, travel suppliers, and also DMOs. So also we have 100 quantitative surveys to leading airlines, hotels, and suppliers. The other area for quantitative surveys will also cover travelers with 5,000 respondents and also cover 5 countries, including United States, UK, India, Australia, and New Zealand. So there are some insights we have developed and also included in the recovery guidebook. So for DMOs, actually is they have shared their roles are changing. In the past, they mainly focus on promoting their destinations in the international market, but now they're more focused on domestic market. The channels are changing, especially for travel agents. They become more important than ever. Amongst the youngsters aged between 18 to 38, 35% of them shared they are more likely to use travel agents during pandemic. And 65% of them use travel agents because the travel agents can provide the most updated travel safety, travel restriction information. To reinstall traveler confidence of course, vaccine is crucial. However, the travelers also have different purpose of visit, like visit friends and families because they have been stopped traveling in the past, and also they're looking for outdoor and nature and also wellness. So for DMO's recovery strategies, of course, transparent in communication is important, and also they need to promote unique travel experiences and also how they can tap on different partnership to make use of the data and also other partners' resources. So for hotels, enhanced cleaning and safety measures are the top important factors to rebuild confidence. So what are the new normal? Deeper cleanliness, speed up the adoption of contactless and more technology within the customer journey. So for hotel recovery strategies, minimize touch points at arrivals, social distancing within the hotels, and maintain flexibility with cancellation policies and also services are very important. It's very interesting that the hotels also shared they are using a lot of data. 70% of them actually will allocate budget for external data. So during the critical situation, the downturn strategy will be in 4 phases. So first of all, how to maintain your brand awareness and educate the target audience. What's your unique offerings? What are the key factors to rebuild traveler confidence, especially working with all partners and stakeholders to have consistent message. And also review your core markets because you might change from previous years. So be flexible and agile to get ready to switch on and switch off. If everything works right, the conversions will be there. So in this session, I will share with you how we use the data insight to identify the risks and opportunities to help the industry to better understand the situation and impact so that they can make better planning and also make sound decision. So Travelport Destination Insight solution is using MIDT data, including all GDS, not just Travelport's data. So it's significantly representing from 30 to 50% of total market size in different markets. So let's first look at the overall UK outbound air bookings from travel agents. So it's slowly recovering at around 35% of 2020 year to date. This is total UK outbound into global markets. So North America was the third top regional destinations, and recovery was ahead of Asia and Europe. So it's back to 62%. So compared to overall UK outbound, which dropped 65%. So let's look at what are the top 20 destinations of UK outbound. So USA still was the top international destination. And Maldives, Barbados, Jamaica, and Greece are covering much faster than any other destinations and even showing growth in air bookings. It's actually echo back to Jill's sharing in the previous slides. When we zoom into the travel pattern, it's observed that booking lead time in general are increasing. So for USA, it increased from 148 days to 198 days booking lead time. And the length of trips also increased. For USA, it increased from 12 days to 15 days. Just like what I've mentioned before, for the air bookings from UK into USA is bounced back to 65% level. So New York, Orlando remain the top two cities, and Las Vegas actually jumped to the third with 61% recovery. Florida destinations became more popular. Miami actually jumped from 6th to top 4th destination. So let's look at the air search. The travel intention is remained at 30% of last year, while Florida shows much better recovery at 45%. Even Tampa was on the top 10 city being searched. So same as air bookings, the average booking lead time of air search also increased. For example, New York increased from 124 days in advance to 136 days in advance. And Orlando increased from 148 days to 165 days, a super long. And for hotel bookings, it's still at between 20 to 25% of last year. So let's look at the hotel search trend. So hotel search in April 2021, it was around 50% of last year. And New York still at the highest search from UK market. It has dropped 87% of searches. And if you look at the Atlanta, Dallas, Philadelphia, and Cincinnati, they are at much faster recovery and even better than 2020 year to date. There's a lot of pent-up demand. So all those charts I've shared are just some snapshots. We can zoom into individual destination and compare with your competitor destinations. So if you need more information, please feel free to reach out. And with all these trends, what that means. So if we summarize all the trends, it shows that UK outbound into US is recovering much faster than any other regions. And the booking lead time is longer. So how you can ensure your destinations are maintaining the awareness and also market share. So continue to build the travel inspiration when they are searching how you can differentiate yourself from competition. And at the booking stage, you don't want to miss out because you still can influence them. They still can change their mind. So let's look at some of the case studies and then how we can help the DMOs to drive destination awareness, build some online education program for travel agents, and also drive booking conversions. So during the pandemic, lots of DMOs have suffered not only budget cuts, but also lost manpower. So we need to be creative and focus on what's their top objectives. So I've learned the domestic drive market will come first, and then other domestic regions, then international market. So how to maintain the destination awareness, and then also the unique offerings during the pandemic period. So this campaign, each DMO chip in small budget and adding together, and Troport also solicit with some other partners, including hotels, car rentals, airports, and even airlines. We've applied the downturn strategy and made use of booking and search data and launch campaign phase by phases. So we first create the online contest to educate and stimulate the travel agents to learn the destination, especially the different drive itineraries and also their unique travel experiences at the Palm Beaches, Tampa Bay, and Fort Lauderdale. Focus on nature and wellness. We also have their COVID updates. So the first phase target was drive market within Florida for short getaway. And then we see the searches bouncing back from other states. Then we start to kick in the campaign with other states, factoring the booking lead time. When we observe there are strong pent-up demand in some international market, then we start to expand the campaign into international market to ensure we will maintain the destination awareness. For the first phase, we have engaged over 600 travel agents and then across different states. And of course, later on, we have engaged other travel agents in different, like in international markets. In this online contest, we also collected some very constructive comments from the travel agents. So they shared they would like to see the activities like local favorites, but not touristy spots. They also would like to see some local customer testimonies with weekly highlights to show the unique experiences. And also they want to see some live streaming, like, Tourism Australia CEOs are doing live streaming in different local sports to show unique experiences, highlight how they can support local communities. And then when should we start to kick in conversion campaigns? So after some analysis, we see the travel intention is very strong and some of the states showing much faster recovery, so that we will launch the conversion campaign and incentivize the travel agents to book hotels. So in 1 month, we have received bookings from 75 travel agencies, so travel companies, with over 600 bookings, over 1,100 room nights. So total room revenue generated was over 162,000. We also, compare the campaign performance. So before we launched the campaign, Palm Beach was behind Florida overall by 2 to 4% points. And during the campaign, it shows positive 3 to 5% points month by month. So overall uplift at 5 to 9% points. So we have different strategies from drive market to other states. And then also we can target those travel agents who can pay higher average rates or who have booked Palm Beach previously. So it will be much easier to convert repeat visitors. This shows the searches was continuous growing and at much faster pace compared to other destinations. We also observed the overall situation and did launch different destination campaigns to drive recovery. Especially we worked very closely with hotels, car rentals, airports, and airlines. So we continue to raise the destination awareness as well as educate the different travel experiences or itineraries. Most importantly is to work with different stakeholders. So to summarize, what we need to be is to be agile and also collaborate with partners, stakeholders, and even competitors. So I strongly believe the tourism connects everyone and we will become stronger, and 2021 can be only better. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Anna, for all of your insights shared there. It's much appreciated. I can see that someone's dropped a question into the Q&A already, and please do, as we go through the session, drop any of your questions into the Q&A, which we'll get to at the end. And now I'd like to invite Diego to put on his presentation, and he's going to take you through some consumer sentiments.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jill, for the introduction. And there we go. So, hi, everyone. So, quite simply, what we do at the Datafield company is human experience intelligence. As Anna was alluding to as well, so if you want to have any more queries or any other questions, you can contact me through Jill, or you can see my email address there. How do we go about this human experience intelligence? Well, we want to help every destination become a data-driven destination. We see that there's feedback left behind. There's about 5 million pieces of content every minute by people experiencing different products, different destinations, different activities. So what we do is we collect all of this data and make all the hard work for you and summarize it into one place. Why do we think it's relevant? Well, if you ever had to put a marketing plan together like I have had in the past, you can understand how difficult it is not to have real-time information on consumer sentiment. Over 90% of us globally rely on somebody else telling us that they had a great experience or a terrible experience somewhere. So we believe that this data is incredibly valuable by the time you're actually thinking about either implementing a campaign, or as Jill was alluding to, whenever we need this immediacy in terms of being ready to send something out or being able to adapt as we go along, particularly in these particular times. How we go about it? Well, we base our data in 3 pillars. One is what we call the geolocation data. So we can map any destination starting from a region, country, city, town, street, down to the actual point of interest, as we call it. That could be a restaurant, that could be a hotel, that could be an attraction. With that information, what we get is the opening times, who's the owner, what sort of services they provide. To that, we have this customer perception data that we collected from this 5 million different pieces of feedback left every minute. And to that, we add our secret source of artificial intelligence, algorithms, and the different sentiment analysis that we allocate to that. And that sentiment is allocated to every single point of interest that we have mapped in a map. I'll show you with an example later on. And finally, as Jill and Anna were alluding to, all of this data will be meaningful, will be meaningless without context. So, of course, we add context as to, okay, were there any events that there were helping increase demand? Were there any events that were helping decrease demand? Was the announcement of a travel corridor impacting on demand? What about the weather situation? What about different prices? So all of these three pillars are considered by the time we provide you with the data we analyze. All of this data is provided to you on a dashboard, or we can provide them as particular files, or we can work on a project basis. So all of this data allows us to create a sentiment index. So what we mean by a sentiment index is we can give you a score, an overall score of your destination. So we can start with this overall score, and then from there we can drill down into every single point of interest that we mapped into your destination. Out of every single point of interest that we map in your destination, we allocate the different discussions that are being had. So it could be about the coffee of a particular place, what is the atmosphere like in a particular bar, what is staff behaving like in a particular hotel. And all of those different comments and sentiments are included in different clusters to make your life easier. So we start with an overall sentiment for your destination, and then we can provide you a different sentiment score for each of the particular points of interest in your destination. And then once you drill down even further, you can do it by source market. So whatever the sentiment might be for the UK travelers, which we're going to touch on in a minute, could be completely different for the sentiment for German travelers. So that would allow you to allocate your offering and tailor to every particular market that you may want to target. These particular indexes allow us to do two different ones. Quite a relevant one is the COVID safety index, and Anna was alluding to this before. This index, we have worked together with DMOs, and particularly in this case, you can see Tuscany is the perfect example here. In here, we actually measured the sentiment towards the actual COVID safety measurements put in place by the destination. So you as a DMO might feel that whatever you're doing is helping customers, but the reality is, what are customers feeling about those measures, and are they letting you know what's going on? So this will give you a very good understanding of what customers are expecting or what they're saying about the measures that you put in place. As you can see from this particular example, we can also pair the actual region that we're doing the safety index for, comparing it to, in this case, Italy, or it could be done against a particular competitor or any other destination that you may choose. The other index that we have created is the Travel Barometer. And this basically measures the well-being of the travel industry. In effect, we measure, as Anna was mentioning before, searches, hotel bookings, what's the demand? Are people saying that they want to travel to a certain destination? We allocate a score to all of that, and we basically provide a score for that destination and say, well, we believe your destination is sitting in this particular index here. Of course, again, we can compare it to any other destination that you might want to focus on, and it could be a competitor. Another index that we're currently working with a destination, and we're hoping to make it available through our platform, is on sustainability. So again, we feel that that's been quite a request from a lot of DMOs. So effectively measuring the sustainability, the open spaces, as Anna was mentioning before, that seems to be a lot of demand for that on post-COVID days. So now that I've given you an idea of what we do, let's just see how the UK travelers are behaving. So this is to give you a bit of an idea of how they behave on short-haul destinations. So what we've taken on purpose is the sentiment between May last year, when the hard lockdown started in the UK, up to this May in 2021. And this is to showcase to you that even though people might not be traveling, they are still traveling from their social media, they're still traveling through their sofas, they're still traveling through their friends. So these are sentiment scores that have been done. The ones that you can see in blue is from every source market in the world, compared to what the Brits are saying about that particular destination. Again, in the case of Rome or Venice or Athens, and in this particular case, we put the outsider there as Brisbane, this is the overall score for that destination. And then from that, we can drill down into every other point of interest within that destination. So in the case of Rome, we can go into what they're saying about Fontana di Trevi, what they're saying about the Colosseum, what they're saying about having a true Italian experience in terms of food, wine, and whatever else. And in terms of the USA, what we've done is we just looked at hospitality, and we excluded the points of interest because most actual attractions will be shut during this time. So we just focus on this, and we focus on, just to give you a bit of a flavor, on New York, Chicago, Miami, and LA. So as you can see here, all these blue points that you can see on the map of New York, particularly Manhattan, those are the different points of interest that we have been able to get sentiment on. As you can see, there's over 17,000, almost 18,000 different places that we have been able to put on a map and allocate a sentiment to. And to that, we can drill down into exactly what people are saying. You can see that there's also sentiment allocated to the hospitality industry, another to food and beverage, and another one to short-term rentals. Again, once we can see attractions coming up, like the Statue of Liberty or whatever else might be, we can start allocating those, of course, or any other thing that you might want allocated to in a map. So as you can see on the results, you can see the concentration of the hotspots. So this means the concentration of the comments that were being made were around Manhattan. Then you can see, you can read it from there, Chinatown, Brooklyn, and Queens. And in terms of the most popular points of interest, this is not necessarily the ones that will get the best sentiment. So this is not necessarily meaning that Katz's Delicatessen is the most or the favorite attraction of New York. This means that this is the one that has the most comments of. So they seem to be doing something either really, really good or really, really badly, or something in between. So people are talking a lot about Katz's Delicatessen and Hotel Pennsylvania and so forth. But this is just to show you how powerful the tool can be, where we can drill down into a specific location, and then we will be able to tell you exactly what they're saying about Katz's Delicatessen, for example. I'll show you this on these other slides. This is to give you a similar representation on Chicago. Again, the blue dots are to show you the different points of interest. So you can see the concentration there. Miami is a similar thing. Los Angeles, it gives you a really good opportunity there as well to have a look at what's going on. And finally, what we're going to drill down now is on the actual opinions on these particular points of interest that you've seen on all these different classes that I was telling you that we can analyze. So what we've done here is a summary of these 4 destinations and what they're saying overall, what UK travelers are saying about the hospitality industry. So as you can see on the right-hand side, the green boxes that you see here is the darker the shade of green, the more positive the sentiment. The lighter, that means that there's actually less positive. If you'll be red, as you will see in another example, that means that you may have a bit of a conversation to have with that particular supplier. So what we're showing here is that the ones that you can see here in blue, that means that 26% of all travelers are actually interested in hotel stuff, and they're talking about hotel stuff, 20% about the room, and so forth. And then on the right-hand side here in red is the sentiment they have allocated to it. So 90% is actually a very good sentiment. That means that they're really happy with what hotel staff are doing in those places. But then, for example, what you can see here in rooms is they might have some issues there on room. And as if you can see, there's a correlation here that there could be something there that might not be to their tasting. Remember that we're only talking here about British travelers. You can do exactly the same analysis for any source market that you wish for. This could be done domestically for US travelers or internationally for any other source market you can think of. In terms of food and beverage, again, it follows a similar pattern as I was telling you there. In terms of red, you can see that potentially the menu available, the choice of food available might not be to the liking of British travelers. But then they're still talking, the focus is around the atmosphere and the hospitality that you Americans are showing to us Brits. And finally here, I'm going to leave you with some insights. So this is how important and relevant it is to segment these different types of data and allocate them in the different groupings. So for example, if you're doing your marketing campaign and how we have helped other people, and we're helping DMOs use this data for their marketing campaigns. If you want to focus on the hospitality aspect, if you want to focus on your hotel offering, if you want to focus on your Airbnb, on your small your small hires that you can have in terms of rooms, then your best option to target in terms of channels for UK travelers is Booking.com. And you can see these are the top 5 channels that we've been able to measure out of 25. However, if you're focusing your strategy, like what we're helping a client now, for example, that they want to focus on the wine experience, on the food side of things, the cheeses, the produce, and so forth. If that's what you're going to be focusing on, Booking.com is not the right tool to do it. It's actually TripAdvisor, and then places like OpenTable or the Hotel Club. So these are just insights on how you'll be able to draw different information and how you'll be able to adapt the different findings for the needs of your marketing campaign. I think I'll leave you with that one, Jill. I'm very conscious of time.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Diego. Really appreciate all of your insights there, and hopefully there were some good takeaways, particularly on those final slides of the sentiment of Brits going to the US. So I'd really like to now invite David to join me for some questions. David, are you there? Here he is. Hi, David, how are you?
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today. David is the COO of US Air Tours. And David, I'd like to just start with a sort of open question. Could you just give us a bit of an overview on your business to the USA as it currently stands?
At the moment, we kind of, there's obviously 2 measurements. One is based on a data travel basis, which as it stands at the moment, it isn't looking too good. However, in the initial throes of the issues that we encountered at the beginning, then we've done a phenomenal job in being able to transfer as many bookings as possible over to further dates. And I guess because we sell so far in advance, then that definitely worked in our favour. Consistently, way back since April or May of last year, we've kind of stood between about 50 to 55% of 2019 numbers. So we never turned off our marketing. We still kept promoting the USA as a destination, and I think overall we've got to be as happy as we possibly can be with what we've achieved in extremely difficult circumstances for any tour operator.
Absolutely. And just to give everybody an indication of your kind of volumes that you were doing to USA and Canada pre-COVID.
Combined, it would the overwhelming majority to the US, but it would be about 30,000 passengers a year into the US.
Yeah, great. And I would certainly think that 50% recovery or 50 to 55% recovery at this point is really strong, and certainly I think tracking ahead of where you had expected this year was going to end. Absolutely.
We budgeted for just between about 30 to 35%. So we're over the moon with where we're at. But as soon as the drawbridge comes down, then we expect it to be a lot better than that.
Of course. Now, there was optimism in the market that the 17th of May announcement would see USA go green at that point, and it didn't quite make it for green then. But what's your prediction if you had a crystal ball?
I think, I guess there's the optimist, the realist and the pessimist, isn't there? But there's been a lot of strong rumours coming out recently from various different sources that people believe that late June, early July will be that time, and I think it's a boost that we could all do with, and we absolutely hope so, because obviously the July-August period, with not that many countries as it stands at the moment from the UK on the green list, if we could strike a bilateral agreement by that time that the US could be on the green list, and similarly restrictions are lifted from the US side, then I think it could be still a decent summer, and moving into Q4 and Q1 of next year will be extremely strong. There's most certainly the demand.
Yeah. And I know that US Air Tours has historically been quite a long lead time anyway, but we are seeing these lead times, we've talked about it a lot today, getting even longer. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, the countries that go on the green list are seeing a really short booking lead time. What would your prediction be if USA does make it to green by June, of what's going to happen in that immediate sort of 4-week period after the announcement?
I think it will definitely flip the cycle in terms of where it sits at the moment. One of our biggest strengths is our lead time and advance allocations. Our average lead time for a US booking is 14 months. We've seen that increase in some respects, so much so that 4 months ago we put 2023 in sale. At the moment, about 80% of our sales, 85% actually of our sales, both B2B and B2C, are for 2022. And as the weeks and months go by, 2023 will start to get stronger as well. However, if it goes on the green list and border restrictions coming into the US are lifted, then I would expect to see that flip completely. And I would expect a flurry of last minute bookings going into the US, as long as the restrictions getting in aren't too onerous, and the same coming back, obviously, to the UK.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that cost of the PCR test coming down and staying low and being easy to get hold of, both here and in the USA, is going to be really important for that as well.
And especially as the US is such a big family destination. So when you've got lots of bookings that are multi-generational families, whether that be, exploring national parks in the west of the US, or going to a family holiday in a villa or at Disney, the larger the family unit, the bigger the impact. Mm-hmm. That cost becomes, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
And are you seeing any identifiable trends in terms of what people are booking? Are they booking different products to what they might have done pre-pandemic?
I think the biggest change is that the length of stay is increased right across the entire US. The length of stay on bookings is increased across the board by about 15%. The spend on people's stay is dramatically increased as well. So people are staying for longer, buying better quality product, being a little bit. I think there's been a lot over the last 6, 9, 12 months of bucket list purchases where people are being a little bit more adventurous. There's also, I think, a lot of consideration in terms of people looking for more outdoorsy pursuits, whether that be renting an RV and going and discovering various different parts of the US. Villa holiday sales absolutely exploded. And again, that might be down to the fact that people maybe feel a little bit safer in their own self-contained unit with their own family unit. But overall, people were prepared to spend that bit more on the experience. And I guess it's because some of these savings have been built up and they want to really give themselves something special to look forward to.
Absolutely. And is there anything in particular that you need from your ground suppliers, the hoteliers, that you need to support the sales that will be coming through in the months ahead?
Yeah, I think the key from a tour operator perspective, without a shadow of a doubt, working with any of our suppliers, is flexibility to make sure that, if any other windows pop up in the future, that from a tour operating perspective, that we can give the message, most certainly from our customers, is flexibility to be able to amend, to be able to change, or to be able to refund depending on the circumstances. Flexibility is key. As much lead time as possible, like never before. So if anyone's got any influence in terms of speaking to the hoteliers, giving us as much advanced lead time as possible, and even working on to try and stimulate the market as many early booking offers as we can possibly get to try and stimulate business.
Yeah, right. Some really good advice there. And in terms of what you would recommend to a DMO or destination marketing organisation looking to try and make some headway and try and actually get some short-term bookings, what would be your recommendation there?
It's a really good question, because I guess, and I think it was touched on earlier on in some of the presentations, where a lot of the DMOs didn't have the staff because of various different reasons or budgets. But there's some of the DMOs, let's say for the sake of argument, Florida, incredibly proactive, working in a phenomenal way with us. And I think it would be, if there was a message, it would be to understand how far in advance a tour operator works, and the more collectively, the more we do together to be able to send as many people down to the destinations as possible, the better. But the quicker we can get these campaigns off the ground, even before these lists or restrictions change, in my opinion, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, I would like to invite all of the panelists to pop their cameras back on. We're going to take some questions. So if you have got anything you'd like to ask any of the panelists, please do drop them in the Q&A right now. There's a question in there already from an anonymous attendee asking if there's any data on the UK's market preference or demographics in terms of using tour operators versus an OTA platform such as Virgin Holidays to book a trip to the US. Certainly from my perspective on that, there's data supporting that around 2/3 of the market book through a tour operator or book through the trade in some degree. Now they would probably be picking up a Virgin Holidays flight inclusive package as part of that and counting that as travel trade rather than OTA. They'd be comparing travel trade versus going to an airline's website and then actually booking your car hire independently. And that sits at around the sort of 2/3 level. David, I don't know if you've got any particular insight or comment you'd like to add to that in terms of what your findings would be, or Anna as well.
Yeah, from our perspective, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. As soon as restrictions were lifted here and the high street started to open, the travel agent business on the B2B side of our business absolutely exploded, because people want to now go back to the high street, go in, speak to somebody that they know, somebody that they trust, that's a part of their community. So from our perspective, yeah, that trust going back into the high street is a huge part of our success as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, great. And Anna, you wanted to add to that?
I think it's also, if you look at the overall, the length of trips, it's about 2 weeks. So definitely they're covering multi-destinations and even smaller destinations. So how many of OTAs, they have those kind of order offerings? It's very complicated. So if you screw up one stop, you screw up this whole trip. That's why for longer hauls, it's heavily rely on travel trade. It's just not just UK market, is actually applied to most of the market for long haul market.
Yeah.
And I guess, Jill, if I may, from my side, I think that's one of the many analyses that we can do in terms of the semantics and the comments that are left behind from people, because there has been a lot of people saying, I would much rather go with a travel agent because I feel safer, or I can get my refund, or this travel agent has been fantastic. Don't book through this one because it's been terrible, or go through an OTA, or don't go through this OTA. So from our side, we can actually work with our sentiment to be able to establish something like that.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you very much to all of my panelists today. I just want to wrap up in summary by saying we're in really unprecedented times. There is no rule book for what's going to happen over the weeks, the months ahead. But hopefully today we've given you some data and insights, and certainly from my perspective, I think if we can use these data and insights to make sure the decisions we're making are based on what's happening right now, it's going to help everyone to recover and for us to see lots and lots of Brits travelling to North America in the coming weeks and years. So thank you very much to everyone for joining. Thank you very much to all of my panellists today. And if you have any further questions, we will be sending around the presentation, and you can just drop me an email and we'll be sure to get back in touch with you. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.